we're going on to our second portion here. Now, here's something kind of new for everybody out here, and I think this is going to be a little bit of fun and maybe a little bit scary for our next speaker. So we've got a little surprise going on here. So Artem, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. I've actually got you on here for basically for technical assistance if anything goes a little weird or awry. But I'm going to basically tell you we actually had our other speaker, our second speaker, drop out at the last moment. So what I want to do for the second hour is that kind of talk about and actually demonstrate the what we call codeless test automation. And I'm looking at this as like a codeless test automation challenge. And who I've got over here, this is Artem Golubev from testRigor. He has a codeless test automation tool. And we're going to spend the next hour. I've got a list of challenges to see if we can get test automation codeless tools to do. Before we get into that, and I will show you the list of some of the questions over here. If we can get to them all, I promise I won't run over the hour limit here. But with that, let me allow Artem. Why don't you give an introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself and your tool?
Artem, hi, my name is Artem. Hello everyone, and I'm a co-founder at testRigor. You can check it out. It's a free tool, testRigor.com. Free, not just as free to have, but also free to run on free infrastructure. So, and we help manual testers to build tests basically of the same complexity as engineers would, using plain English. As soon as you can explain something in plain English, you will be able to do it in testRigor.
Cool. All right. I'm sharing my screen. I'm not sure if everybody can see it. Maybe our guys can there. There we go. It is popping up over there. So this is our challenge that we're going to. This is going to be our Zapple text challenge. And for everybody listening over here, so a couple things I'm going to ask you is if you have a question, if you're like, hey, how can an automation tool do this? I'm going to try and answer or even demonstrate something on the fly. If there's something that you've seen a coded tool do, let us know and think about it. And you can ask questions up on YouTube as we go along. I'm also going to say, if anybody else has any other tool, what I'd like to do in the future sessions, I'm going to keep this list, and I'll show you the list over here if I've got it available to pop up. There's my list of challenges that we're going to try and get through in just an hour and a couple of minutes here. If you got another tool, this is a list of challenges. I'd like to see if you got another tool, see if you can get it to do this. And that's what I'm thinking about there. So I'm going to get started over here. The first challenge I've got listed here that I came up with was when we're creating test cases, all the test cases should start from a common URL. And it also should do a login. So login is usually the first thing that we do with a tool. So I'm going to use this. This is from Ministry of Test. I have a website out there, and it's nice and convenient because it actually has a login that we can do. You type in, here's the credentials. Keep them. Don't tell anybody. These are the credentials. Admin is the login name, and password is the name of the password. Again, they're pretty easy to hack out there, but it's intentionally done that. So what I would like to do is I'm going to go and basically log into that account. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I'm going to go over here to, I'm going to go over to our test suites over here and just start something brand new for Zapple Tech. And we will come back to some of the other challenges over there. We'll call this the Zapple Tech login. And Paulie's going to type it correctly. Zapple Tech login. We're going to do desktop web testing. Although I can tell you, Artem's tool also does mobile testing out here. We're just going to stick with this. And I'm going to say we don't need to generate any questions, any automated tests. That's a different feature, not for today. And for Ubuntu, we're going to use the operating system of Ubuntu, but you could also run on Windows or Mac, and you could also run it on different browsers. But we'll take the defaults of using Ubuntu and Chrome. And here's the thing: I'm going to put in the website, the URL. So we're going to jump in the admin over there. And as you remember, admin, the interesting thing is everybody does a login. And one of the cool things is you can do a login. It's built into the first thing. It's like Artem actually figures out the first thing you're always going to do is try to do some sort of login, and he actually builds in the fields in there to put in the login credentials. So I'm going to put in admin over there. Password is the password, and I'm going to go and create my test suite. Okay, close that. And we don't have any tests built as of yet. So we're going to do this, and I'm going to go add a custom test over here. Let's say login. And what I'm going to do is use this is an implicit rule. There's a reusable rule, and guess what? It's already built into this. So if I just do login, Artem, you verify with me. You think this is going to be able to go hit that website and go log in? I think he's
Yep, go
probably going
for
to say
it.
yes. Okay, he's saying yes. I think there's a little bit of delay between you and me. So I'm going to hit add and run out there. And I'm going to open this up. And basically what this does is it creates a environment in the cloud. It is going to be a Linux environment because that's what we chose by default. And it goes over there and basically takes screen captures as we go along. And look at this. It ran and it passed in 9 seconds, brought up the environment. And not only that, we're going to go over here and take a look. These are the screen captures of what it picked up. It said it wants to go and log into your account. It actually automatically figured out that there's a button out there it needs to click for logging in. It goes over here to log into your account, and it will go and use the variable names that we stored when we created this test, put in admin, put in username over there, put in password, and then the last thing it did was it went over here and logged us in. And this is our login environment. This is our front page. If I go to Reusable Booker and I say log in with this, we're there, which is pretty cool. That is, I think, less than 3 minutes to create a test on that. So that's a login on there. By the way, we're going to take a look at, let's see. We logged into this. We want all the tests to start from this URL. So let me just verify that we can do that with testRigor over here. So if I were to create a new test, we're going to go create a brand new test over here. Add a new test, test 2. I'm going to call it. I'm going to say login as well because we're going to do the same thing. And it's actually automatically chugging away, putting in the queue. The cool thing is under our test suite details, this is the URL. This is the landing page that it goes to. So our first challenge is have a single landing page, have multiple tests, all get to that page when it starts. And look at this, we've got 2 test cases. They both passed. To be fair, they're both identical, but we're going to work on that. Let's go take a look at our next challenge. What was it? Login with credentials, admin and password, all done. Cool. Our next thing is we'll do try to validate a field in a cell in a table. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to this URL. Now this is an interesting table out here. So, and don't forget you can ask questions out here as we're going through this live and show you stuff. What we got here is a table. I'm actually going to inspect this and take a look at what kind of table do we have out here. Let's take a look at this guy. It's a standard table. He's got a table class, he's got a table head, a body, and we also have rows. We have different values, Yorktown, Spock, Nyota out here, and looks like a trap. There's a little combination he's got going on of, I think, Star Wars and Star Trek, which is really kind of cute. But what we really want to do is we want to go and enter some data into this this row here. And again, as I said, this is codeless test automation. So the one thing we want to avoid in that is anything that's really complex, which is, let's say, I don't want to do any CSS, I don't want to do any XPath, and I want to write it like in plain English. So if I go back over to my test, I'm going to use test 2 over there, and I'm going to go quickly edit it. I want to, let's see, open that URL. So we're going to switch to URLs, and we're going to go to this table. And we're going to enter, I believe, texts. Let's see. I like Zapple Tech over here into, let's see. Now, I don't always remember exactly how to do this, but the cool thing is I got some documentation over there. And if I go to the documentation, I can look at using tables, which is here, working with tables. There's our sample. And if I wanted to do this, I wanted to enter something into the first table, second row header ID. Let's say I want to, let's say at row containing this value and content value containing that value. So I'm going to go over here into into at row containing. Now this is what we brought in. What's the row we want? The row in this table I want
You
is,
should
yes,
say
go ahead.
into table. You should say into table before it.
Got it. Okay, into table. We will do that. And what I'm looking for is additional data, and I think Spock is what we're going to go for. So we'll do additional data and Spock. Enter into table at row. I think we're going to say Spock. And column. And what was the columns we had over there? I'm trying to remember. The column is additional data. I'm going to put that in there and populate that guy there. Again, take a look at this, plain English. There's no Java, no JavaScript, no Ruby, nothing to learn there. So enter this text into that, and I'm going to go and hit update and retest. If I wrote it correctly, I get a nice green box that says, hey, you did it right, and it automatically starts retesting. So it is sitting here going that it is in the queue. So it is going to go and jump and see if we get to a pass. Now I got all the way over to this. So it's going to switch over here. In fact, at the bottom, it says open this URL. And then the next page should take us to, there's our sample table. And the last thing we do is it says enter Zappletech into the row. Let's go zoom in on that. Look at that. It figured out that Spock is the row we want. Additional data is the table, and it put that in there, which is kind of cool. Plain English. Wrote it on the fly. Let's just double check. If we don't have any test plan, okay. I'm looking for any questions. I don't see anything specifically for doing a test automation without any code, but that's okay. I'm going to go back and see what else we had in our list here. Navigate to another URL. I did that. Validate a cell in a table. Oh, and populate and validate a cell in a table over there. So Artem, if I wanted to validate that I put the word Zappletech in there, I think I would just copy this. Am I correct? I think I would just say check that table contains something like that. Remember it's check table. Am I reading that right? Something like that.
It should be input in the context of.
Input in to context.
No. Like check that input in the context of, and then your table thing.
Input in context of table.
Context like CONTEXT, not contact, context.
Context. Oh, context in the context. I'm misspelling this context. I probably should just copy it from the, okay, in the context of.
So remove everything until next word table.
So a table like that.
Yeah, so in the context, the input in the context table has value, and then whatever value you would like to check.
As value. And we'll put in Zappletech over there. See if I got close on that. I'm going to hit validate and save and see if I got it. Hey, I got it right. So I'm going to go retest that. So I got the first half of this thing where we are going to go and check that. While it's running, I'm going to jump ahead and take a look. We got our first three done. The next thing is validate a sale on table without table structure. What the heck is that? All right, hang on. Let's go take a look. I have a URL over there, and I'm going to go jump to that URL. We'll go to this table 3 out here. This looks, in fact, there's some there. I'm going to go inspect this this table. I'm going to take a look. And the problem is that this is not actually it's actually put together with divs. There's no identifiable cells or anything in there. They're all just a bunch of divs. And the question is that going to be a challenge for us? Well, let's go jump back over to testRigor over here. I'm going to go and take a look. We do have a past result. So what it does over here is it says, let's see how we do this. This is entering the Zapletec information in there, which is basically that yellow. I'm not sure why I got this blue in there. Let's try that one more time. So that's why we have the yellow around here saying, hey, I typed in Zapletec. And then there's another bigger, a little smaller highlight that's green, which is saying, hey, verify that row that we actually typed in something in the Zapletec. Works. That's cool. So the next question is, can we do this, but on a table that does not have actually a table inside of it? I'm going to give that, I'm going to hit that update and a retest over there. And while that's chugging along inside the thing, we're going to take a look ahead and see what else is going on here. Next one is create a negative test with expected and actual screen captures is the next challenge. So we'll take a look at that. Let's see. This is the table. This is, just to be sure, I'm going to close this up. I'm going to look at my details and take a look at this URL. See, is this table 3? It actually is table 3. That's cool. And did the exact same thing. Didn't matter whether it had a table or if it didn't have a table structure. It's going. Sounds flaky. Fedora's like, oh, I don't believe this. I see that, Fedora. I see you asking questions. Nice mustaches. Some interesting questions. Sounds flaky. So here's what I tell you about is that one of the things that I do in my automation in order to make sure that things aren't flaky is I take different approaches to finding elements. So one of the first things a flaky test is that what happened? Are there 2 rows? It's Spock in there. Tobias has got a really good question on that. I'm going to follow that up on our next session because I like that Tobias has that for supporting a table that has either 2 lists on there or looking for multiple columns on that. Great question out there, Tobias. I like that, and maybe Tobias, maybe we'll bring you on in one of the other next sessions and maybe talk about that. I think he has another tool. I'd like to see him do that. So, Tobias, you've got the URL from this session, table 3. You can go grab it. Actually, create your own table on there. In fact, I think Tobias has a table as he's going to build on that. So don't worry. Let me get back to the question thing I was saying. So flaky tests. One of the major problems you've got with flaky tests is that our darn developers keep changing the way the locators are written for any particular element. So part of the issue with developers for flakiness is stopping those developers from creating a different an element. Changing, let's say, a link. I got a winky face there. Good. Changing the link, let's say, from an A anchor to a button. So when I create my frameworks and I do it by code, I'll sit there and say, okay, the A linker, the locator I had doesn't exist anymore. It's now a button. What I'll do is I'll dynamically create another CSS or XPath that is got the same text, but is got a locator that says, okay, let's try it as a button. Let's try it as a div. Let's try it like that. testRigor does the exact same thing. It goes out there and says, I don't care what kind of element it happens to be. And in this case, same thing. It's 2 different tables. It still figures it out. It's got a great identification rate. So it takes a couple of different approaches on figuring out how to find it. And by the way, one of the cool things is that also supports OCR. So worst case scenario, you can use optical character recognition to go and find an element under there. So that's my answer over to the flakiness for Fedor. I like that. So let me get back over here. We did this. What was my next challenge? I'm looking at my notepad. A negative test with a negative and positive. Well, I can do this really easy. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to say check that this has Apple. I'm going to put in Fedora. That's what I'm going to do. Fedor. I'm going to make you so famous. So I'm going to spell your name right, because nobody likes to have their name spelled. So I'm going to do it one more time, except this time I'm looking for Fedora to appear in there. I'm going to update and retest that and let it run again and see it this time. Hopefully we get a failed test and we get some information as to what actually failed. We are back up there, chugging away. While it's chugging away, I'm going to look at our next one over here. Vertical scaling data drive with a parameterization. Okay, let's see. Some of the other things you can do in here's settings is that how long you wait for stuff. Now there is a default of settings. I'm going to go over to speed optimizations. There's a default wait ups of timeouts. This is a fairly fast system, so I'm going to go change my timeouts out to 5 seconds rather than 30 and 60, so that we're not waiting that long for those test cases to fail. So, because I know I'll take a little extra time. I always like my systems. Oh, look at this. We had a failure. Cool. Let's go take a look. Cancel that, please. Get out of here. Yes, I know the password was. Okay, so it says here, we're looking for that. Let me see what the details say. It says, show errors. Field's supposed to have the word Fedor, and it doesn't, and has Zappeltech instead. So there you go. You have your actual and your expected. And we also have a screen capture that says, hey, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is my failure over there. I like that. Kind of cool. Cool stuff there, Artem. I'm going to take our next one over here. What was our next challenge? It said data drive with a parameterized value. Interesting. So what do I want to do? I guess I will go and create some test data over here. And we are going to go create a data set that we will add, and we'll create the data set is call it results. Sounds good. Call it actual expected. Call it that. And I'm going to go and add a variable name, actual poly, that's to spell it right. And I'm also going to add expected. We'll do expected. It's not going to work if Poly doesn't spell it right. So the actual and expected. And if I go down here, these are actually, I'm adding variables. I'm not what I wanted. I'm going to go delete these. Made a mistake on this. We're going to go over to rows. Actually, I did do that right, didn't I? My bad. Okay, one more time. I thought I made a mistake. I don't second guess myself. Actual results. And I want expected result. Expected result. I'm going to add that. And then we're going to go over to rows. And we're going to add a row. And we have actual and expected values. So one of them is going to be Zappeltech. Get that right. We'll do that. The actual is Zappeltech, and the expected is going to be Zappeltech. I'm going to go add this as expected results. Okay. Most of my time is spent just fixing my mistakes. I'm going to add the expected result, and then I'm going to add another one here. I'm going to add another row, and this is unexpected results. In this case, we are going to, the actual is going to be Zappeltech, and the expected is going to be, this time I'm going to go pick on Tobias. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to add that in this. And then I'm going to go back to my test cases. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link the data set over here. There's my data set, actual expected. I'm going to link that over there. Hit close on that. And I do have to make one quick check on this. We're going to edit, quick edit this test case. And this time, instead of Zappletech, we're going to put in saved value. The name of the saved value is actual. And we're going to do the same thing down here. And now we just basically parameterize this test. Has value, has, I think it's saved value here. I'm correct. Expected. Okay. To be honest, I think I've reversed those, but that's okay. And I didn't spell expected that. Expected on that. I'm going to go and validate and save. Got a green out there. I'm going to retest this. And here's the cool thing is I now have this data row drop down over here, which is blank at the moment because it hasn't started and finished the test. It's all sitting up and setting up in the environment. So what it's doing is that we have the data row set of the expected result and the unexpected result. So if we have an unexpected result, it should fail. So we're going to get a fail out of this because one of these two tests is going to pass, one of these is going to fail. This guy coming over here says, hey, we expected to see the expected value in Zappletech. Cool. And if I switch over to the unexpected result, this is the one that has the different name. And it says, hey, this is something wrong over here. What's our more details? So our errors. It says page doesn't contain Tobias, but it's supposed to. So it actually gave us a result on that basically did indicate that that was not being found in the error out there. Still, it failed. So that is cool. Expected result passed. Unexpected result failed. And one of the other things that Lou was talking about just before here, he's talking about parallelization. Can you run these tests at the same time? And the cool thing is that, yeah, you could have 100 of these test cases and you could go to speed optimizations, I think, down here, and you can have tests. Now, I do want to make sure, I think Artem would want me to make sure that to know that the open source version of this has only one parallelization. Artem, can you confirm with me that if we do it open source,
correct, yes.
Yeah, so it's one parallelization. So everything does run sequentially. You can do that free. And if I remember correctly, it's unlimited users can get on that, right? You can add as many users as you want. Am I correct? Even in the open source?
Correct, yes.
And it's unlimited test cases, right? Is that correct?
Yep.
Also, unlimited test cases, unlimited use. There's no additional cost. When you get to the point where you have like 10 test cases and they're taking an hour to complete, at that point, I think there's a paid subscription on the testRigor, which will add you parallelization. So you might get 2 parallelizations. That means give a screen here. All 10 test cases, 5 of them run at the same time. You could get 5 of them. You could get all, if you got 10 parallelizations, it would be your results are basically take as long as your longest running test. Everything is basically put together at the same time. And that's where it's all controlled over here, is how many parallelizations do you do, which is kind of cool. And this I'm set up for parallelization testing. So I'm going to go back over here, and I do want to be respectful of everybody's time because I know automation stuff is kind of boring. We actually had 20 minutes left on this session. So yes, you can actually run these at the same time. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to rerun this. Let's see. One of the other questions I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to integrations. I'm going to turn on recording a video. You saw we did screen captures. So I'm going to turn on video. I'm going to go back over to my test case over here. Close that. Thank you very much. And I am going to retest. And then I'm going to jump over here. And if this sets up correctly, we should see 2 columns. There they are. Executing. That went fast. And basically executing down through this. I think this is our previous run. So let me go back.
Yeah, so previous run, you need to wait until new run will pop up.
Until the new run starts up. It's in progress. I got you. I went fast, everybody. Let's try this one more time. Only thing is the test is pretty short and it, it already got there, but it did run basically both these guys at the same time concurrently. And this is waiting on the failure down here. So that's running in parallel. Let's see what else we've got over here. This is running on Ubuntu and this is on Chrome. Oh, and by the way, this is a video from Vimeo. It's still transcoding, it's still putting it up out there, but it will give you a video of exactly everything that goes on there as it executes. And the reason is it's not built yet is because that last test, that last failure, is still waiting for it to complete. So once it does fail the whole suite, it will give you a video of that. Let's see what our next challenge was. So I did a data-driven parameterization. I did a video of tests. That was for extra credit. Let's see. We did, let's see, a negative test with the actual expect. We did that. We did data-driven with a parameter. So our next one is horizontal scaling. So for anyone who doesn't understand what there's vertical scaling and there's horizontal scaling. Everybody starts, it should scale. Well, what does that really mean? It means, well, if you're vertically scaling, it means you got one, you did your first test, and then you did your second one, and then you've gotten up test case. This is all basically vertically going up. But then somebody comes over at the water cooler, your CEO comes over and says, "That's great. It runs in Linux, but most of our users are actually Windows people. Can you run this on a Windows system?" Oh, and by the way, there's a couple of Mac people there, and if we don't handle the Mac people, that's we're gonna leave money on the table. So let's look at about seeing if we can run this on different environments. So this guy is still out there in progress, chugging along. So we will come back to that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to our settings and show you this, is that I'm going to go and add Windows. We'll add that, and that's on Chrome. And I'm also going to go to Mac and I'm going to add that. So we have Linux, Windows, Chrome. I'm going to save all that, go back to my test cases, and I am going to go and rerun. Yeah, I'll close that guy. And I'm going to go rerun our first test case over here. We'll retest this. And you'll notice that now it says there's Ubuntu Chrome, Windows Chrome, and OX Chrome. So we're now doing horizontal testing, different cross-platform testing. The three different things. And by the way, I don't need to be bothered with setting up this environment on that. It's all handled in the cloud out of my area. So that's one hat off my head. You'll notice that when you're looking for jobs, and by the way, I am looking for a job. I should mention that. When they ask you for, you want to be an automation engineer, well, you need to have these certain hats. You need to be able to do GUI testing. Oh, and by the way, you need to do API testing. And by the way, how much load testing is doing on this? And you also need to be able to set up all these environments where we are currently running in AWS or some other environment, browser stack, and that's a lot of hats to put on the head. And they said, well, we'll pay you about $2 an hour for that. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. But this is one of the things I do like about tools I always keep an eye on is like, how much extra work do I have to do? As Lou mentioned earlier in the presentation, he said, there's maintenance that you have to do. And that is one of the major things that goes out with your maintenance. And you have to, that's more time away from you writing test cases, which is was the original goal. Write me some test cases. So over here, I got Chrome, I've got Windows, and I've got Mac all running the exact same tests. So we've done that. We've replicated that. It's also telling us how long it takes for this to show us. You'll see these greens, 1 second and 408 milliseconds. Artem's extremely accurate on this. If it takes quite a while for it to build at some point, then it will actually tell you how long things are going. I did notice on one thing is that you've got some fancy stuff like View or whatever, where you've got stuff sliding in. Technically, the page is built as it's sliding in, but the timing is taking it takes about 3 seconds for this thing to come up. And I do know that Artem actually tracks 2 different ways of checking those timing differences out there. All right, so I mentioned this is vertical testing on different platforms, but I did it all on Chrome. So one of the other questions is, can you do it on different browsers? So let me go back over to our browsers. I'm going to make a slight change over here. I'm going to get rid of these two guys over here. I'm going to go over here and say, yeah, Ubuntu, I want to do it on Windows, but I don't want to do it on Chrome. I want to do it on Edge. I'm going to add that. And then, of course, I want to go over to Mac. And, of course, no Mac would use Safari. Nobody would ever use Chrome on a Mac. So giving a little shout out to the Mac people on the Safari. So there we go. I got 3 different operating systems, 3 different browsers. We'll save that, give that another run on our test case. And we will.
To rerun test cases, you probably want to cancel testing and then top run. Oh, by the way, you want to probably turn off the video because
I will
video is
do
what
that.
makes everything 5 times
That's
slower.
that is a good point out there. Is that video is actually you want to use it when you're really trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm going to take that advice and shut off the video there. I just wanted to point out that it is available.
And then if you go to top left corner to test suite details.
Test suite details, yep.
First click rerun. With one button, you'll rerun all the tests.
We'll rerun everything that's out there. Okay, in fact, and if I open up, I'm going to open up this guy down here. If I go over there, I'm going to go to my execution and see if I did it fast enough. Might still be building. I may have done that too fast again. I'll double check. Let's see. Yeah, this one already passed. This one's in progress. If I can hit it, maybe I can see it because it is a short test. And there you have all these tests. And we have some failures going on out there too. Something else I want to kind of point out there is that one of the things that you pick up on is that there's sometimes stuff that manual testers just don't know what, or you know to look for results, issues in the page. I'm going to give you this example over here. Whenever they've got a screen capture that's not red and it's not green, this is yellow. It tells me that there's something going on behind the scenes that got detected. So let me take a look at this. It said that when we hit this, there were 4 JavaScript severe errors that were found. And one's a 404, another one was a 403 errors, and the request was aborted. I honestly don't know what these mean, but I could certainly grab that, send it over to our development environment and say, hey guys, I'm picking up on this. Can you figure out what this is? Because it is a benign error. It's not stopping our test cases, but it is picking up on something, and maybe we don't want this. Could be, well, could be a benign error that could become a problem under some certain circumstance. And somewhere down the line, it was like, oh yeah, we fixed that. It wouldn't. I don't want to turn it into something that blows up and keeps the page from building. So this actually gives me more information than me as a manual tester or even as automation architect could pick up on to identify there. All right, so let me go back and take a look at our challenge list and see what we've checked off so far. We tested on multiple browsers. We tested on Mac and Windows. I think I mentioned they ran it in parallel. The only thing left that got to do is, I think, is extra credit over here, which is a reusable component. That's one of the biggest things about test automation that we want to have, is that we want to make good use of our testing out here for reusability. So let's say I want to do this validation over here. I'm going to copy this text over here. And I'm going to go create a reusable rule, which is something that could be used in any one of our tests. I'm going to put in the text over here. And what am I going to call this? You know what? There is some programming rules for coding rules. And they basically say if you've got something that is a constant, you should always have an uppercase. My general rule here is to do this in uppercase like a constant in order to make it a little bit more visible when we do this. So I've got my caps lock turned on, and this is going to be validate parameters. We'll call it that. I'm going to, and do I have a space in there? Let's see. Yeah, validate parameters. Okay, I'm going to put this in as our label as well. I'm going to say click and find and replace steps. And what it does, it goes through all of our tests and says, hey, maybe I can see if I can find this text over here. And maybe it was copied because we copied the test 3, 4, 5 times over. And it'll find every version of of our existing test. In this example, we don't have a whole lot of time. Only one test only had it there, but it says, okay, yeah, this is the one I want to use and replace. So I'm going to hit replace selected. And then I'm going to go back over to our test cases. And I'm going to take a look at this over here. And we'll notice that the lines of code that were there, is in my copied it because I copied it. All those lines of code have now been changed into validate parameters. This is the reusable rule that is being used that is combining all those tests. So I can take that reusable rule. I'm going to close that. I'm going to go over to our second test over here, and I'm going to put in validate parameters here. Update and save. Let me just check if there's anything I'm missing. Oh yeah, we needed to open up to the correct URL. That might be interesting. I'm going to copy this and say to saved value regular. Got my caps on there. Open URL saved value, and we will call this table lists. Table lists. Table. Spell it right. Table lists. Table lists. Sounds good. Close enough. Tab lists. I don't know. Tables. Call this fancy table. I'll call it that. Fancy table. It doesn't actually have a table in there. And the other one will be regular table. So I'm going to use fancy table, validate and update that. I'm going to go back over to our test data, and I'm going to go and create a global variable. We'll add that over here. Call it fancy table. And I know I capitalized. I'm going to just double check on that. So there's our one over there. That's our fancy table. I'll add that. And then I'm going to also add another one called regular table. And I'm going to put in our regular table, which I know is table number 1. We'll do that. Add that. Go back to our test cases. I'm going to go and edit this. Quick edit over here. And we're going to say this is fancy table. Like that. I'll copy this and validate and save. And then I'll go down to our second one over here. So that, and quick edit this one. And this guy is going to go to regular table. And update, save, and validate. And then I'm going to go back over to our test suite, and we are going to rerun all of this. Yes. So what's our time looking like? 53. I've got actually 7 minutes. I expected not to get to everything on this, and I'm actually finishing it up early. So these test cases are now sitting up there in progress, chugging away. And maybe I might go to this guy over here. I do have a failure down there. I'm going to double check and see what that is. See if that's actual very. Oh yeah, that's because we were checking the name expected in the actual expected results. And I am running in 3 different environments. Let's see if I forgot that I had an intentional failure on these guys over here. So there you are. You've got all these multiple environments all chugging away, running our test cases, passing on the first three, failing on the second because the second groups are intentionally set to fail because it was looking for Tobias and Fedor instead of Zappeltech on the test case, which is kind of cool. All right. Let me see. I think I covered everything in the challenge. And like I said, anybody has any other tools, go for it. I covered everything. We have reusable components. These two test cases use all capitals reusable components. The only thing I got left is, can you do a relative element location on a test? Let's see. Let me take a look. Relative element location. So if I go in to look at the RESTful Booker, and we really just navigated over here and just wanted to verify something like this. Let's see. If I click create, I'm going to think about this for a second. Maybe if I just go to the regular, instead of the admin, I'm going to go here. We'll go to the reservation side. So we're going to go to the reservation side and see if we can do that. I'm going to go to testRigor, our tests. I'm going to add one more test cases. This is relative elements. That. And I'm going to go and open URL. Normally I would put that in a parameter, but don't have a whole lot of time, so I'm going to do it this way. I already showed you guys how you can do that. I will go there. What do we want to do? We want to, let's go over to our RESTful Booker. And what we want to do is click book this room. So we'll do that. Click book this room. Sounds good. We'll do that. Let's see this to explain. The third thing we want to do is we get this all this stuff here. I want to enter my email, but you'll also notice that there's an email here and there's an email here. So I'm going to say enter my email below name. Let's try that. See if that works. Enter fake at fake.com. We'll put in a nice fake email into email below name. Make sure I had that right. It is below name, not below first name. We want below name, above phone. Let's do that. It's actually more. Let's see, into email above phone. And this is a little on the fly, so I'm going to give it a shot and see if we get the right one that we're looking for. Add and run. Says I wrote it correctly, so I'm going to give this a run. We'll go watch it as it is building out the test. It is sitting in the queue. It is coming up over here. And over here it says book this room. Found that button, clicked on it. That's cool. So at this page, we only have all these elements, but we only have one of them. Too easy to automate, not a challenge. And it says put in this near name. And here we had the one on top. So, there was a phone. This is actually the phone up here. So it actually went for phone. Let me go take a look over here. I did have a phone. So what I want to do is, this actually did. It's the first one, the first email that was above phone. So what I'm going to do is above subject. We're going to make one last test, and then we're going to wrap up this demo. I will go back over to, close this out, quick edit, above subject, because that one is actually sending an email rather than making the reservation. We need to update and retest and see if we can get that. By the way, when testRigor does this relative element location, when it does relative element location, it does it by, you can say near, you can say to the left, above, below, to right, to the left. You can tell it exactly. You can say, I want to do with the exact text in there. So let's take a peek over here. Let's see how close we got. It's a little off screen. So I'm going to go scroll down. We'll make that one more test. I will do this. Scroll down. One more test over here. Guess who I see has just joined us over here? I see a message of Selectors Hub. That means the creator of Selectors Hub is sitting on talking over here. And we've got like 1 minute left to kind of do this. We're right at the top of the hour, and I will wrap up in 1 minute. I do want to make mention that if you do have Selectors Hub over here, and you can right click on it, Selectors Hub will actually create a testRigor path for you in order to work with that tool. So I wanted to make a mention of that. Let's go back to that test case, and then we're going to wrap things up over here. We have a pass, and what do we get? Check it out. The first email was over here, and this one said, find the email that is above subject. We could have said near subject. We could have said, yeah, I mean, there's a couple other different ways, but that's a relative element location. Guess what, guys? We checked off every one of these guys over here. I will have this posted and available somewhere as the challenge. We'll have the video. I don't see any questions coming up, except for the one that Tobias mentioned, and I'm going to see if I can invite Tobias to kind of show off on that. With that said, Artem, you talked the entire time. I was trying to get some demos going here, and you just took up all the time talking. Any last words before we wrap this up and thank everybody for attending the Zappletech codeless test automation demo?
Yep, I think like what I would like to end up with is that I sincerely disagree with previous speaker on the topic that you have to know coding in order to build tests. That is absolutely incorrect. You do not have to know coding in order to build tests, because tests are a linear thing. It's a sequence of steps ending up with the validation, because you're checking that certain functionality works exactly the way you would expect. And for that, you can create any level of complexity test without needing to learn how to program with testRigor. Right. Thank you so much for having me here.
You're welcome. And I will mention when I was listening to him talk, to be fair, I think what he was actually saying, and this is a good point, is it's commonly known that, or considered that you have to use the same programming language that you're writing the application. If it's written in Java, you have to use Java as the automation tool language. That is not true. You can use any language. I worked for almost 12 years paying my mortgage, writing stuff in BASIC, in VB script with UFT. Didn't matter the language on that, on our applications. Anyway, I'm going to thank everybody here for joining us. Thank you, Lou, for that. Thank you, Artem. And if there's any challenges or anything, reach out, ask them questions. I'm at Dark Arts Wizard on Twitter. And you can also catch me at thedarkartswizard@gmail.com. Send stuff over there. Check out my YouTube channel, YouTube. And it is /Paul Grossman, The Dark Arts Wizard, because you couldn't make it any longer than that. And in the next couple months, like I said, I will invite anybody who has other tools with codeless automation to step up and repeat those challenges that we've got out there. Thank you so much for everybody attending. I hope you enjoyed it. Have yourself a great day.